Hey there, everybody. It's Jen from empathicmastery.com, your fairy godmother for empaths. And as you can see, I have my dear friend, Nikki Starcat Shields, with me as well today. So, Nikki Starcat Shields is an author, a book midwife, aka writing coach, if you want a less fancy schmancy term for it, and the leader and facilitator and just like all around brilliant mind behind these amazing transformational writing retreats that, if you've heard me talk about them in July, I've been going up to the coast of Maine for these amazing writing retreats that Nikki hosts every single July. She's also a licensed pagan priestess and has been actively practicing magic for more than 30 years. Nikki teaches people to become thriving artists, writing their heartfelt books while nurturing themselves in their creative lives. Nikki, like me, lives in Maine and she adores books and, like me, cats and the ocean. Nikki, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
It's so special to be here because you were the one who helped me come up with the term book midwife to begin with back in
Yeah.
2018. So it's
Yeah, I
been,
remember. I can vividly remember sitting at the desk and talking with you, and like it just came through about like you are a book midwife, like you help books to be born. And I can certainly say, I mean, you and I are working on the second book in utero right now. And if it weren't for you, Empathic Mastery would certainly not be what it is today. I don't know if it wouldn't exist, but it definitely wouldn't be what it is today. So, for any of you guys who are watching this and considering or contemplating, like you have a book in you and you really want to get it out there, Nikki, really, that's what she does. But the reason we are here today specifically is because Nikki has written another book, an amazing book called The Elements of Creativity that has launched today. And there is her original proof
it's a
copy.
proof copy. It has a
Yeah,
little
because the
flag.
book is so new
Yeah.
that that's what she's got right now is the proof copy. And elements, Nikki, how about you tell us a little bit about what is Elements of Creativity? What is this book about? And particularly since the audience around here is mostly empaths and highly sensitive people, why is this so important for empaths and highly sensitive people?
Ooh, yes, I'd love to talk about that because that is what I am as well, and didn't realize it for a long time into my adulthood, and so have had to come up with ways to do things that quote normal or neurotypical people don't need, right? So I'm sure you're all familiar with that routine, and mine centers around creativity. So a lot of times when we think about creativity or writing a book, we think it's a hard slog and we have to do all these things and hustle and hours of sitting at the a typewriter. I have this image of like a writer in an attic in a old fashioned typewriter, just suffering for the art. And so that wasn't anything that
I
I
think
could.
I think we may have lost our signal with Nikki. I hope you guys can still hear her. I'm not sure what is going on. But Nikki was just talking about how incredibly important the myths about writing, the idea of, that we're going to be suffering in a garret. I had this image immediately, and Nikki's calling back. Woohoo! Welcome back!
Hi.
Yay!
I don't know what happened. So
Yeah,
what was
sometimes we were
where
talking
were we?
about, so we were just talking about the myths about creativity. And also I just wanted to say that we have a visit. We have a watcher all the way from England named Patricia. So hey
Welcome.
Patricia from the UK, thank you for being can't hear Nikki now. Yeah. Nikki, hopefully Nikki say something and let's see if Patricia, can you hear Nikki now?
Can you hear me?
I
Am I
can hear
still?
you. So
Yeah,
hopefully other people can hear you too.
I hope
So
so.
yeah, so we were talking about the idea of the myths around creativity. If somebody could also just like type into the chat and let us know that they can hear Nikki, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And while we're at it, while we're waiting for this sort of technical thing, if you look into the description of this Facebook Live, this YouTube Live, wherever you're seeing this, there is a link to go. Yes, we can hear Nikki now. There is a link to go and purchase a copy of Nikki's book. And the thing that's really super cool about it is that it is available. The Kindle copy is now available for 99 cents, which is a total no-brainer. Even if you're somebody who likes hard copy books and really prefers like holding it in your hand, it's like for 99 cents, we're talking like, I mean, you can't, I'm like, when was the last time you could buy a hamburger? Like, I mean, maybe in the 80s for 99 cents, or like a
Right.
soda or something. Like you can hardly get anything for 99 cents anymore.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
Nikki, we were talking about just like the myths around creativity, like especially around writing.
Yeah, and so the myths are that it has to be hard and you have to suffer for your art, and that might occasionally happen. But what I found is by approaching my creativity in a way that is kind to myself, then it flows much more freely. It's more fun, and there's a lot more of it. Like getting into that, to me creativity and spirituality are very similar. Getting into that deep part of yourself where you're connected to all that is allows your creative wellspring to just overflow with ideas. Now, do you have to still do the work and do the writing and practice? Yes. But it can be fun. And I've combined ritual and magic and fun things that our younger self delights in with the actual writing practice. Or actually, this book is kind of aimed at people writing a book, but any large form creative project it would really work for as well. So I've gone through the five sacred things: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, and kind of assigned, and this is work that I've been doing with clients for a few years now, assigned different things that we need to work on to those elements. So in earth, in the north, we're talking about habits. We're establishing a foundation of writing habits or creating habits that you like, that light you up, that fit into your life. And then we move into air. And for air, we're practicing those skills, those intellectual skills, how to write, how it works best for us to write. Because I know, Jen, you've experimented with different ways of doing it that are non conventional, but they
Yeah,
work for you.
they work for me. Yes.
Yeah. That's the
Yes.
air piece. It's like making that work and practicing the skills and doing the thing. And then we move into fire. And fire is where you develop your voice. We were
Mm.
all taught in public school or private school or college or wherever we went to write generically. Make it
Mm,
sound like
mm-hmm.
everybody else. Make it really vanilla and plain and just like everybody else, because you're going to get better grades and the teacher will like seeing their own words in your, papers. But when you read a book, you want the unique spark of that person to come through. So we have to relearn to let ourselves be creative in our own way. So that's fire.
Mm-hmm.
In water, we have community. We are a drop in the ocean of community. And even though many of us writers are introverts or ambiverts, we still need other people, but not just any people. We need our people. And I know, Jen, from the retreat that when the right people gather and we really get one another, magic happens and all of our projects are enhanced. So that's the community piece. And then spirit pervades everything. Spirit is the connection. And it's also in the work that I do, spirit, I call it inspired persistence. So it's not the type of persistence to finish a big project that you would think of, I need to make myself sit down at the desk and do the thing. No, it's inspired persistence. So, okay, today I would like to create what's inspiring me. And you get connected and you feel into it. And then it might not be sitting and writing that chapter today. It might be going for a walk in the woods and thinking about stories you'd like to include. It might be helping a friend on their creative work. It might be something else entirely. It might be a journaling assignment that you give to yourself. But creativity flows, it ebbs and flows, right? So some days you're going to be in the flow and you might write and write and write and create and create and create. Feels really great. The next day you might need to take a nap, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So this is a way of writing and creating that really goes with the tides of life.
Yeah. Yeah. There were so many things that you just spoke about, and two things that really jumped out at me. around, well, so many things jumped out at me. I mean, like just the aspects of how do we hack, how do we find our way of writing? How do we find our way of expressing ourselves? How do we, go, and so often that means breaking the rules, which also fits into when you were talking about like finding our voice and how so frequently we're encouraged to do these like vanilla modified like pablum, just like regurgitating the thing. And I certainly learned that, especially I really got it when I was in graduate school, and I discovered that each teacher wanted me to write in a particular way, and the
Hmm.
skill was not writing for me, the skill was writing for them and understanding what they wanted. But recently I've had this experience of just how creativity so often can be squelched by the masses. I've been massively into playing the game Redecor. It's like this like decorating app, and there's a point to this. And what I've noticed is that when I first started playing, I did it entirely for the joy of playing it because it was just like I'm going to use purple in everything. But what I quickly discovered was that I won more points. I got more credit when I used neutral colors and I did things that were just kind of like palatable. And so what I've noticed is that and the app kind of trains you in how to recognize the, sort of socially acceptable decorations or designs versus the ones that are like, oh my God, what the hell was that person thinking? And it's interesting how there's an incredibly fine line, I think, between elegance and effectiveness and good, streamlined, well written communication versus when are you just dumbing it down? And like, so I've been really just noticing, like, where is that line between? Because sometimes I'll do something where I'm like, this is a really great thing, but it's like the app doesn't like dark colors. So you put in dark colors and you immediately get docked certain points. So it's just really fascinating how that generic, the pressure to produce something generic it's everywhere. And I also just really wanted to affirm, reinforcing that myth, that idea of the artist up in the garret, that you have to do this alone. And one of the things that I really have gotten from you and from working with you and being in your world is how frequently being the creative process is best not alone, that the creative process really is in community. And, that it is really possible to go and be in a place with a whole bunch of writers and everybody's just sitting down and writing. But there's this cross pollination that happens. So I love how community is a part of the elements of creativity.
The other thing about trying to sort of dumb things down and make them more generic that is that it causes us to try and write and edit at the same time. So
Thank you.
that is not a good idea. That
No.
is number one tip for people who want to write. Do not, and you have to teach yourself to do this, do not write and edit at the same time. Because editing is very left brain, analytical, critical. It's a good skill to have, but not when you're trying to create something new. When you're trying to create something new, you need to be in that right brain, creative, flowy, crazy, wild place and really let yourself do the messy draft. Just write it all out. And I have a bunch of different, tricks and tips in the book for how to get there, especially if you're a recovering perfectionist like I am.
I know nothing about being a recovering perfectionist. Nothing.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, that is such an incredibly important point. And I think about with my long form writing, like with a book, I'm always going to go for this super messy draft and like just get it out there. But I've noticed if I'm writing like a blog post or if I'm writing an article or if I'm writing just a chapter for a multi author book, I'm much more likely to be guilty of that editing as I go. And you're so right, that self censoring, that like, oh, is this going to sound right? Is this going to be right? Is this going to do right? Oh my goodness, is that debilitating to the creative process?
It is. And I'll give you one of my favorite ways to get around that really is writing sprints. And
Hmm.
so writing sprints are when it's like something like the Pomodoro method, which a lot of people know. Basically, the idea is to do it for a short, focused period of time from anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, and just don't stop typing or don't stop writing or don't stop dictating, however you create. Just keep going no matter what. Don't edit, don't stop, don't correct spelling, just go. And then when that timer goes off, stop, take a break. And I don't even look at the stuff then. You can look at it later, but just be like, okay, I'm taking a rest for 5 minutes or whatever. And then jump back in. And doing those writing sprints with other people is such a great thing because we keep one another on task.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, it's great. It's
You know,
it's so
it's
fun.
funny. I interviewed somebody who's interviewed Sam Bennett. Her podcast came out this Friday, and or last Friday, and she talks a lot about embracing the idea of 10 minutes, like just like a taking you choosing to dedicate like just 10 carving out 10 minutes for
Mhm.
something in the day, and how over time 10 minutes really adds up. And I think, that's the thing we have. I know for myself, sometimes the Pomodoro or like the sprints can be really hard for me because it can take upwards of 5 to 10 minutes for my brain to just click into gear. And so I feel like, it's like I finally get into the groove and then the bell rings and I'm like, okay, you're done. So I find I have to really be mindful of like what kind of pacing I need to do to get myself into that frame. But I love the idea of like the short bursts being so much more effective in getting our work out into the world than like trying to be like, I need an entire weekend. I can't possibly write unless I take this entire weekend.
Yeah,
And
I love to
that's
tell
something I
people
probably
about,
need to look at.
I love to tell people about our friend Chase Young and her book. So our
Yes.
friend Chase Young, I have her book here, Mommy Rebellion. It's a substantial book. It's really wonderful. This is when she had 4 girls. She now has 5
5.
girls.
Yeah.
She homesteads, homeschools, runs a business, does all kinds of things. And she wrote this book in a year by doing 15 to 20-minute sessions in the morning before the girls got up for the day, 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So if I tell people if she can do it with this type of busy, crazy lifestyle, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to talking about the impact of. Let's talk about the impact of being a highly sensitive person, an empath, on the creative process, and why, in particular, this book is for us.
I think there are a couple of things that come to mind right away. There are a lot of things. Two that come to mind right away is that, for me at least, my physical body will not stand for the hustle, force, go, go, go culture at all. I get stressed out. I get sick. There it is. I'm done. Then I can't do anything. And I did that a lot in my in younger years. And so I learned the pace that I need to take. And then I've kind of built my life from there around that. And so a lot of us, that rings true. If we stress ourselves out, we get overloaded, we just don't function. And then you can't get anywhere.
Right.
So it really takes a lot to, and we were talking about this, Jen, yesterday in one of your group programs. So like it takes a lot to sort of go upstream and do things a different way,
Yes.
but it can be done.
It
It
really
can
can be done.
And then another thing that really comes to mind is so many of us, the highly sensitive people, have been burned really hard by community. We didn't fit in. We were told that we were too this or too that, or not enough this or not enough that. And so we're wounded. We have these community wounds. And in my mind, it's really important to heal that. And the way to do that is by finding others, like here in this group, empathic mastery group, like finding others who have a similar approach and similar needs, and they understand us and they're interested in the same things. Like my family of origin is really proud of me for being a writer, but they don't really have that much interest in magic and spirituality and writing books. And, so to have people who are, have those similar interests and vibes, and it doesn't have to be, it's not like we're all kind of trying to be twins of each other either. It's not generic, but just that we understand that we have a different approach, that we're, we're unicorns and we're going to do things differently it's been for me incredibly healing. And that's the bonus of living in the internet age. I know people are like, oh, it's too much screens and this and that, but you can really find your people because we're spread out everywhere,
Yes,
across the globe. And so finding your people and spending time with them online is really healing to that community wound, I find.
absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
especially for people like you and I who live in Maine,
Hmm.
where, it's like you and I live, if we really wanted to, we could like drive a distance and see each other in person. But we live
Hmm.
far enough apart that it would certainly be a bit of a schlep for us to do it on a regular basis. And, anybody who's living in an area that is like, I mean, if you were in Manhattan, you could probably find your community. If you were
Right.
living, like, there are certain areas where you could probably find your community live and in person. But for many of us, this, being in a niched community, being virtual has made such a huge difference and is just so much better. I love how you talk about us as being, the unicorns. And I think about the writing retreats, and you were talking about, it's not like we're all writing the same thing. If anything, having been part of the salons where we get to hear a piece of writing that everybody does at a certain point during the week, what I love is the fact that every single, like, it's like one unicorn is like a purple unicorn, unicorn is a rainbow unicorn, one unicorn is like this dark, dark as night indigo, like starfield unicorn, one is like this silvery sparkly unicorn. But it's so striking how different every single writer's voice is, and
Hmm.
just how much, like, the community creates space for the authentic voice to come out, not for the generic voice to come out.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Another thing that I do in this book is to advocate for what I call exquisite self care. So, in
Mm,
order to be these highly sensitive beings who, as you point out in Empathic Mastery, are here to help the evolution of humankind, like we have a purpose, we're here for good reason. In order to enable us to live in a way that we can do that work, we need to take extra good care of ourselves, body, mind, spirit, emotions, all of it. And so, and yet there's like some guilt around that. Do I really deserve that? And who's going to give it to me? Can I just give it to myself? And all of that. And so I talk a lot in this book about taking exquisite care of yourself and how it's a good thing. Nothing to be guilty for. Yeah, it's good.
yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and it's so necessary. I mean, as Chase often says, put your own, well, and Chase would say specifically, put your own fucking oxygen mask on first, but just that idea of we absolutely must put our oxygen masks on, that is a necessary part of getting our creativity out there. Another
Mhm.
thing you spoke about that I want to pull back out because it was so rich is talking about the intersection between creativity and spirituality and how similar they are. And
Mhm.
I will say that in my travels, I find that the energy of an artist, a writer, a musician, a creative person is often very similar to the energy of a spiritual pilgrim, of a spiritual practitioner, that there is something about that connecting to the juice. Now, I will
Yeah.
say that I have had the experience of, well, in both the spiritual world and the artist world, of running into those who are not plugged in, like who are just very skillful and proficient, but not necessarily like they don't necessarily experience the juice. But all of the really amazing artists, writers, musicians that I know, and all of the amazing magical spiritual practitioners I know, there's that similar connection to, like, you're connected to something greater than yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I love
love
that
that
you
you
use
bring
the
that
term
out.
plugged in.
Yeah.
Plugged in. That's definitely, it's something I use. I do a lot of guided meditations in my work. So I guide clients and people through guided meditations. And a lot of times we're going from talking self in the brain down through younger self in the heart, down to deep self in the solar plexus, in the hara, in the will chakra. And I tell them a lot of times, okay, just notice if you can feel that kind of plugging in feeling where you're
Mm-hmm.
really connected and aligned.
Yeah.
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 And that's where things come from. Now, if you're a creative and you're not really identifying as spiritual, you're like, I don't know if I know what you're talking about. Think about that feeling of being in the zone where you're
Yes.
doing your creative art and you just hours pass and you've just been so immersed in it. You finally come up and you're like, oh, wow, wait, I'm hungry and I have to go to the bathroom. What's going on? That in the zone moment is that the plugged in. It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in my experience, there's an effortless quality that when we're plugged in, when we're in the zone, that it's just like it comes so much more easily than when we are, when the brain, the mind, you know,
Mm,
is involved in the process and is trying to control it and micromanage it and work it.
yeah.
You spoke about the three selves. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the three selves.
Okay. Yeah, this is a concept from the writer and priestess Starhawk, who was involved with the reclaiming tradition. Her book, The Spiral Dance, is really quite well known in many
Classic,
communities. It's a
classic,
classic.
and
And she wrote a book
spectacular
that's,
novel, Fifth Sacred Thing, too.
yes,
Like,
yes, one of my time
yeah,
favorites.
yeah,
And so she wrote about it starting in the spiral dance as it's somewhat similar to the id, the ego, and the super ego, but it's more, to me, more relatable, more magical. So
yeah,
the talking self is the part of your brain that's like the left brain grocery list, oh, I've got to edit this while I write it so it'll be perfect, that kind of thing. And I associate that, this isn't Starhawks, I've kind of put it on the body in a way that she didn't really talk about, but I associate that with like your mind, your head.
mm-hmm,
And then down, the younger self, or younger self, if you will, is the part of us that is right brain, creative, loves ritual and all the sensations, smell and touch and sound. And this is why we do ritual. This is why we have flowers on the altar and incense burning and beautiful music playing. It's just appealing to that younger self part of us. And then going lower in the body to the hara area is deep self. And deep self is connected with the non-physical part of reality. So if depending on what your beliefs are, that might be connecting to God, to goddess, to the universe, to Buddha, to whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's that non-physical part that you can identify as not self yet self. You're part of it, but it's something bigger than your waking self. And the whole gist of the triple self is that talking self and deep self do not speak the same language. They cannot communicate directly. They need the intermediary of talking self to translate
younger
and bring
self.
things into alignment. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, younger self to translate and bring things into alignment. So when you
mm-hmm,
can get that alignment and you appeal to your younger self with your little rituals and your music and your whatever's your favorite thing. I know prayer beads is one of your favorite
yeah.
things. Like, yeah, journals is one of mine. And you appeal to that when it's all aligned, it's so much easier for the creativity to flow forth.
So much easier for the creativity to flow. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
and I because and as you were speaking, it's sort of like any one of these alone does not necessarily nurture the creativity. And I was actually leading a tarot class the other like back in August, and I was talking about when we are really reading effectively, when we are really sharing information, when we're really sharing information well, that we are using all these different aspects of our all these different parts that are in there. There's the talking self, the rational logical mind that's like this card means this, but then
mhm.
there's like the younger self, the intuitive self, the part of us that's just kind of like just getting information from these different places. And there's like, and then there's sort of the all these different pieces of like, are you going to go totally by rote and just the meanings of these cards? Are you going to use your creative process and like sort of see like, oh, this color is this, all these colors are here, and I'm looking at this and seeing all these correspondences and these connections to this? Then are you working just entirely sort of letting your intuition guide you? That when we use all of those parts of ourselves, the process or the result, what we create, ends up being so much more exquisite than
Mm.
when we rely on just the rational thinking mind, or just the creative heart, and that's sort of like, you can have those books where somebody writes entirely from the heart, but they don't bother editing. And I mean, that's one of my personal pet peeves about a lot of channeled material, which
Mhm.
you and I are in the process of working on and combing through my next book, which is entirely channeled. But I my one thing is, a channeled book does not mean that you don't edit it. Like, it still needs to
Right.
be cleaned up.
'Cause it's so
Still
hard
has to
to
be
read if you don't.
readable. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost
it's so hard to read.
impossible to read if you don't if it's not edited for actual human expression. Yeah,
Yeah. And when you have all those parts flowing together, you're having so much more fun.
so
I
much more
wanna
fun.
I wanna shout out, so some of the stuff that you do, that helps me, so we're kind of mutually,
Yeah,
helping one another. When I had finished the first draft of my manuscript of this book, I had a few people read it, and I got the feedback that it would be nice to have more kind of case studies, more like showing people putting this into action. So I was like, okay, all right. So I got inspired and I wrote a one person's story, kind of just wrote the story. Okay, this is the person who's starting to write a book. And then had a session with you, and we can, and you, and this is another thing I love when you're all like aligned and in the flow. You particularly, and this happens to me too, have these. You're like, they want you to know that
yeah,
it's coming through from somewhere else. It's channeled. So the guides wanted us to know that there were actually three stories
yes,
to put in the book,
yes,
and they helped us to channel and create these incredible backstories. And so now, woven throughout the book, we have stories of three people who are writing their first book in very different ways, from very different perspectives. And that's all woven and we created that in
yeah,
an aligned and channeled co-creation session. So I love that. I
yes.
love how that. Yeah.
Well, and this also leads me to, I mean, I grew up in like the conventional art world. I went to art school. I started going to art classes when I was like a kid, and then, continued on. And one of the pieces of the conventional art world is the idea of ownership and originality.
Mm.
And like, so there's definitely this interesting kind of resistance to collaboration, to actually
Mhm.
asking for help,
Mhm.
because of the kind of like, well, if it's not your own idea, it needs to be original. And I will say for myself that embracing community, embracing collaboration, like handing my book baby, my infant, like my brand spanking new, or maybe even like barely out of, like, I
Yeah.
mean, like in the third trimester, but handing my book, yes, handing
This
my
beauty.
book, this beauty, handing my book over to you, and this new book, the new book that's coming out, Empath Invitation,
Mhm.
like handing it over to you at that point in time, there is a way in which it's like, this is breaking a paradigm of, I can't let somebody else participate in or get their hands in it because then it won't be mine. And I
Mm.
think that there is something so incredibly important about collaboration, about being in community, and about asking for help as a writer, that allows the product that allows the book, that allows the everything to be so much better than if we just keep on trying to, like, muscle through and do it all by ourselves.
What you're saying about the jar, the label, and
Yeah,
the
you can't read the label from the inside of the jar.
yeah,
Yeah,
you need that
yeah,
other perspective. Yeah, and a lot of people come to me, well, not a lot, some people come to me and they're like, I've had this book idea and it's really unique and I'm afraid to share it because I don't want someone to steal it, because, that sort of thing.
that
And my
one.
advice to them is always, okay, I can see you coming from that perspective now, but what you'll discover as you practice and create and learn to create in ways that serve you and fill you up is that there is a never ending flow of creative ideas.
Right.
I literally have more book ideas than I've ever, like, I'm 54. Even if I lived to be 104, I would not have time to write all of the things that I think of from day to day. Right.
Ding,
So,
ding,
and
ding.
that's because I've put myself into a place where I can get inspired and I can, free flowing. So to me, this is part of the thing that some people are really scared about, the AI. The
Yes.
artificial intelligence stuff is like, oh, my stuff's going to be stolen and regurgitated. And, if you are in that flow, there's way more than enough to
Way
go
more
around.
than
And
enough.
yeah, and there's a sense in which stories are, as you break them down, so universal. It's almost like Lego blocks. Everybody has the same Lego blocks to build their books with, and whether it's artificial intelligence doing it or us doing it, I mean, there's plenty to go. There really is plenty.
There is
There's abundance.
plenty. There's plenty. Well, and this, there's so much. This is such a rich piece of conversation because one thing that gave me a lot of freedom was the realization that there's no such thing as an original idea under the sun. Everything is repackaged, everything is regurgitated. We are working from the same, I mean, we are breathing the same molecules that the dinosaurs did. Like we
Mm-hmm.
are in a closed system. And so it's not about coming up with a brilliant new idea, it's about how do you express that idea yourself. And as you were talking about breaking free from genericness, opening our voice, expressing ourselves, that to me is what it really comes down to. It's not about me sharing an idea that is new that nobody else has ever had. It's about sharing it in the most authentic, real way I can so that it is coming through me and from me. And I believe that if there is anything that saves us from or protects us from plagiarism, AI, any, people stealing ideas, it's be yourself. So much so that nobody can mimic you. That like it's like, and that's where it's like one of the reasons why I think it's so incredibly important to break free from the generic stuff. Because yeah, if like you're writing in a generic way, AI is going to look like your shit. But if you
Mm-hmm.
are writing really personally, if you are writing your stories, if you are writing from your heart and you are expressing yourself, AI cannot hold a candle to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can smell it, you can taste it, you can feel it. There's no soul in AI writing. And it's a great, and I mean, I use AI writing. It's a great tool for writing, for like, hey, chat GPT or, like, what is it, cat I pooped. Like, um, please write me 100 word, like, Instagram thing for the blah, blah, blah. It will spit that out. Then I can go and edit it and turn it into, I can genify it as we call it. And, but it's a lovely time saver, but it is by no means a replacement for good writing.
Absolutely. And I love that you said tell your own stories, because that's where I go with things too, even with nonfiction, maybe especially with nonfiction. Think
Especially
about
with
when you
nonfiction.
read something that's like a self-help book or something. The ones that are just giving you advice and do this one, two, three, boring, boring, boring. But
Boring.
when they get into, this is my story. Like I always use the analogy of Reiki book. How many books are there on Reiki? There's a lot of
A
books on
lot.
Reiki. Some are good, some are not. But if you want to write a book on Reiki, write your experience, your stories, how you've used it, how your clients feel about it, what unique spins you put on it. You can write a book on something that's been talked about a lot, like you said, from your own lens, from
Right.
your own
Right.
unique unicorn colors.
Exactly. And the thing is that one of the things I've noticed both as a writer, but especially actually as a podcaster, is that the people who share specific examples, who share snapshots, case studies, ideas of like, what was it really like to be living this? It is so much more accessible than when people are just talking about the theories of the 5 steps of blah, 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 blah. And I think that, if anything, what I'm taking from this conversation today, especially, is the vital importance of including our stories, the vital importance of including our experience, and of including pieces that are accessible, relatable, understandable, so that somebody can go, oh, yeah, I know what that's like. I went through that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm just
So
putting in here. We're kind of getting close to the
we
end
are
of
getting close to
writing
the
already.
end, and so I was just going to actually say I know that you've got to jump in 5 minutes, and I want to be sure that to give you a chance to say if there's anything like that just is like your burning desire to share right now. Is there anything that you're like, I really want to be sure I cover this?
I really want everyone to know that you can write a book. You don't need a master's degree or even a bachelor's. You don't need certain qualifications.
Mm-mm.
You just need practice, time. What makes someone a writer? Writing. And I don't mean with a pen on paper either. You can type, you can dictate, you can speak it, you can do whatever you need to do. But creating that book and creating a body of work is what makes you a writer, not some kind of degree or program or certification or something like that. So
Absolutely.
that's something that we talk about in the book too.
Well,
So
and even with a degree, I mean, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Visual Art, and I have a Master's of Arts in Psychology and Religion. I wrote a lot in graduate school. I mean, a ridiculous amount in graduate school. But I don't necessarily believe or feel that either art school, undergraduate, being an undergraduate or a graduate student, actually really prepared me to be a writer. It's like I have the degrees, but that's not what makes me a writer. It's getting my butt in the seat, sitting down and just like doing and writing down the words.
yeah.
That's what makes me an author, not some kind of lofty degree. And I really agree with you. Like, even with a degree, it's still really about the act of choosing to write on a regular basis and committing to getting your butt in the chair.
I want to also give a shout out and a word or two to my fellow bookworms and journalers,
Yes.
because reading really helps you become a good writer, and journaling really counts as writing. And also, there is a point at which you need to step beyond your comfort zone of reading and writing stuff just for yourself and try some writing that you'd like to share. If it's a goal of yours to share writing with the world, just step out a little bit out of your comfort zone, share it with your people who get you, and practice that, the visibility. There's a lot in the book about visibility and resistance, which we won't get to here, but there's a lot that will help heal the things that keep us from writing and
Mm-hmm.
sharing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
a lot of that.
Absolutely. Well, and you guys, the beautiful thing right now is that this book is available right now over on Amazon for 99 cents. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Like, maybe you could get a cup of coffee at Dunkies for like 90, like a small cup of coffee at Dunkies for
For the
99 cents.
coupons, I
But like,
know.
this is a book that, like, share this book or buy this book, read this book. I just dropped my Amazon affiliate link for the book into the chat here. And Nikki also has created, if you want to keep it really short, sweet, and simple, her link is nikkistarcatshields.com and is it Elements Book
Elements book.
slash
And
Elements
so
Book? Yeah,
that will give you the link to get the Amazon ebook today. In
yeah.
the coming days, there'll be a place to get the paperback from Amazon. And I also have a special deal where I can send you a signed book with bonus goodies and things like that. So it's all on that nikkistarcatshields.com/elements book page.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Ah, so we got 2 minutes before you're gonna turn into a pumpkin. Any last things that feel like you just want to be sure you say?
Hmm. Oh, I would like to say that thanks to some of my amazing community members, this book also has not only ways for empaths and highly sensitive folk to work within this system, but also those who are gender queer and on the spectrum of gender anywhere, and also those who have ADHD
Yeah.
or autism or other types of neurodiverse ways of viewing the world. It's really, I've tried to make it really inclusive, and I've gotten feedback from others in the community to help it be more inclusive. So I just want to welcome you. It's not just a book for women, by a woman kind of thing.
Right,
It's like,
right.
it's it's for everybody.
Right. Well, and if anything, this is a book about how, if you are not your, average bear, your muggle, your neurotypical person, do you write? Can you get the book out of your like out of the, I don't know, like out of the numinous and
Yeah.
into and into reality. Nikki, thank you so much. This conversation has gone by so incredibly quickly. I really appreciate you having taking time out of your very busy day on book launch day to come and talk with us about creativity. It has been fabulous to discuss everything with you. And I hope that all you guys, seriously, go buy a copy of this book. It is a no-brainer, and this is 99 cents that could change your life. Like, really, seriously, 99 cents, no brainer. This is 99 cents that if you follow the directions, if you follow the inspiration, it will change your life.
It will. And
It
thank you
will.
so much, Jen, for supporting this launch in such a wonderful way and hosting me here. And I'll be back to talk with folks. We're doing a masterclass later on in the
Yes.
fall, and
Yes.
we'll have opportunities to talk and chat and inspire one another again. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And for you guys, Nikki, if you need to jump, no problem. I'm just going to say one last thing to you guys. If you are interested in being part of the masterclass that Nikki and I are going to be doing, that is going to be happening over in my free Facebook community, the Empathic Mastery Circle. And you can just jump on over to empathicmastery.com/masterclass to sign up. We will be having this awesome, awesome like 2 hour masterclass on all kinds of aspects of deep diving into creativity. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be sharing it with you guys. So again, come on over to empathicmastery.com/masterclass to get a front row seat in Nikki's masterclass. It's going to be happening in a few weeks. I have to, let me hold on for a second and I'll just let you know when is it actually occurring. Create. It's called, the masterclass is called Create, and it is going to be happening on Friday the 13th, Friday, October 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So come on over to empathicmastery.com/masterclass to sign up, to join us, to get a front row seat so that you can be part of this amazing class with Nikki called Create that's going to be happening. It's going to be happening in our Facebook group. So to all of you who are here today, who are hanging out and listening, Nikki, if you didn't figure this out, Nikki is just an amazing human being. She is such a sweet, dear, loving soul, but who also just really, really values community, connection, and the idea of a rising tide raises all boats. And I'm incredibly grateful for all of the wisdom, the support, and the creativity that Nikki shares. And the beautiful thing is that the Elements of Creativity, this book that you can get for 99 cents, is the meat of what she does with us, who are her book clients, who are the people who are, who are bringing books into the world. This is for 99 cents. You get a snapshot into how does Nikki share this? How does Nikki do this? And you can follow what she says in the book and hopefully then be like, you know what, I think I want to be part of one of her virtual writing retreats, or I want to reach out and talk to Nikki about getting some help. But for 99 cents, you get all of her wisdom, you get all of her enthusiasm, you get all of her insight, you get all of her inspiration. So, please, the link is in the comments. The link is also in the description up above. 99 cents. It's a total no-brainer. Go buy the book. That's what I mean. Go buy the book. Okay. I believe I have said everything that I can say, and I've got a student who is waiting for me, or will be waiting for me in 10 minutes, and I got a dog to feed. So I am going to jump. It has been a delight and pleasure to share this with you. If you know anybody who might be interested, who has a book burning inside of them, please hit the share button. Pass this along to them. If they're one of those shy people who doesn't want to be tagged, then hit the share button and send it to them as a PM. If they are somebody who loves to be tagged, then write in the comment, like tag them so that they can watch the replay of this. Because there is so much, like we need everybody's creativity being expressed these days. Everybody's voice matters right now. The world is things are too important for us to hide our light under a bushel and keep on kicking our creative cans down the road, waiting for the day when we'll be ready to do it. So please like this, share this, pass it along to other creative people or people who want to be creative people who would find this useful. And until next time, thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't figured it out, for more content by an empath for empaths, you know the drill. Please like, follow, subscribe, all the things. And I will catch up with you either solo or with a wonderful, amazing guest sometime very soon. Peace.